David Secter, 22, born in Brandon, raised in Winnipeg, now a movie maker on the move.
I think that the film is by far the most exciting artistic medium today. It has a wide audience. You can reach millions of people, many more than through any other medium. It can be used for anything. You can be spectacular and sweeping. You can be intimate, pathetic, humorous. It was really when I saw a group of top French films at a festival, when I realized what could be done with the film medium, and not only that, but what could be done in Canada. I'm tremendously excited. I think that this country could be doing fabulous things in films.
Joel, I think that you have certain thoughts about trying to maintain some objectivity in this movie that you're making, and I think that's a good idea. But I don't think we can deny the fact that we have a very strong personal connection, and that really is why you're making the movie, and we have to acknowledge that. You're exactly 30 years younger than I am, being the younger son of my younger brother Harvey. So we've known each other for 30 years. You probably don't remember all of those 30 years, but actually, what do you remember? What's your first recollections of our acquaintanceship?
My earliest memory is probably of the my great-grandmother's birthday party in Southern California that you were recording video
I thought
at.
this was a terrific time to really capture some family history. And in any case, I wanted to get my nephews and nieces involved. You're like ranging the age, I guess, from 2 or 3 up to, I guess, 10. Would Michael have been 10, I guess, at this time?
Kind of thing.
And anyway, yes, from the get-go, I was like eager to work with the younger generation and get you guys actively involved in this project. And the whole concept, indeed, of storytelling, from generation to generation is something that obviously goes back at least that far in our history. So talk about that a little now that it's come back to you. I mean,
I don't know. Looking back at that video, like on tape now, I in some ways identified with you. It's hard to say how or why, but I think we were in some ways drawn to each other and have been over the years. I don't think it came out of nowhere when we finally connected.
Roll camera.
Taxi? Yeah, I guess so. Going to the university, eh? Yeah, that's right. How'd you know?
I came to Toronto in the fall of 1963 to go into what was the second year of English language and literature at the University of Toronto. This was all my stomping grounds. This was like a few blocks from college. The only art theater in town at the time was just up the street here, the New Yorker. There was very little happening in terms of independent film in North America at that time. Cassavetes was already working. I remember seeing Shadows, I think Faces during that period. In Canada, Don Owen had made a movie called Nobody Waved Goodbye, which got a lot of attention because, again, in that period, hardly anybody was making features in Canada.
Well, there hasn't been a successful commercially successful Canadian film produced yet. A lot of people have invested quite a bit of money, and they've all been stung, so that everyone's very skeptical when someone announces that he's making a feature film, especially when there's no experience.
Well, against these kind of odds, why did you decide to make it?
Well, I discovered that Orson Welles made Citizen Kane when he was only 24, and I figured that time was running out and I'd better get cracking.
How old are you now?
22.
In Toronto at that time, no, the movies were not made. There were no movies. So unlike someone's growing up in LA, you didn't see trucks on the streets. You didn't have friends whose fathers were in the film business. There was no connection with movies at all. They came from somewhere else, just like automobiles came from somewhere else.
If ever there's an example of ignorance being bliss, it was Winter. I mean, I had no idea how complex making a movie was when I announced I was going to do it, and then it was just, chutzpah that saw us through. I mean, I was totally ignorant. I mean, I thought the clapperboard essentially was just to make a loud noise, let everybody know you were going to start shooting and they should shut up. I didn't realize I had another function to actually sync up the picture and sound until the first day we started shooting. Nobody involved had any experience, doing any of this stuff before. I mean, the actors had mostly done some theater. None of us had written a script before, but we'd all done a little bit of writing. One of the cameramen had actually used a movie camera before, but that was it. I think so. It was really student film, almost like the truest sense of the word. I mean, we were all learning as we went along.
This offering is quite unacceptable. I insist that you take this plate back to old Mushengats immediately.
I realized pretty early on that the interest that all of my friends had in girls, and which I had too, I also had in guys, and I knew that that was taboo.
Hi. Hello. Hey, listen, pal. You're not sore, are you? I mean, about that business in the dining hall? I mean, we always give the new waiters a rough time. It's sort of an initiation. It keeps them on their toes.
Well, that's all right. Well, I guess I'll take this back to my room and read it there.
What are you reading?
Oh, just some poems. By Eliot.
Well, we're dealing with a very close friendship, a very intimate kind of relationship that some people consider borders on latent homosexuality. Other critics have ignored it completely and seem to feel that it's just the kind of a relationship, the kind of rapport that does develop in a university situation. So that I think it's really up to the individual to decide whether this kind of male relationship is homosexual or otherwise.
On my immediate left is David Secter, who directed the groundbreaking film Winter Kept Us Warm, and I think claims the distinction of being the first gay feature in English Canada.
One of the reasons for coming here to see it and to make contact with the cast and crew is I plan to make an epilogue, a two-part program consisting of a half-hour dramatic short in which the four leading characters in Winter Kept Us Warm meet again at a 30th class reunion, and also a half-hour documentary where we examine some of the issues that the film explores.
The word gay was never used at that point, so none of us knew we were making a gay movie. The kind of framework or category of gay movie had not yet been invented.
John claims, in fact it's referred to in this piece, John claims he had no idea that there was this homoerotic element.
John claims?
Yes.
He didn't know?
John claims he did not know there was a homoerotic element. Now, whatever word we use...
No, you wouldn't. The thing is the way you classify it. Now there's a word for it, and the word is homoerotic.
Okay.
And if you said back then, the same thing that you have at summer camp, or you have any place else, you have a male bonding thing that has a physical component to it. Okay. It's not sex, but it's a physical component, closeness, affection, whatever you want to call it. Now it's homoerotic, but then it wasn't.
In fact, there's a line. When you stay in bed, she comes into your room, okay? And she says, is there another girl, Doug?
Right.
And he says no, and she's really making every effort to get him to talk about it.
Well, everything was fine until you met Peter. If I didn't know you better, I'd swear, you and Peter.
Oh, come on, Bev, cut it out. I don't think that's very funny.
Did you have any notion of what a homoerotic element?
None at all. No, and this is what I found really so intriguing watching the film again now, was really how overt the homoerotic element was.
I met David one day in the University College common room, and he, in his usual enthusiastic manner, got me very excited about the idea of possibly doing music for his film. When it came to budget, people who know David Secter in those days realized that speaking about getting paid or any kind of budgetary consideration was always met with a big guffaw kind of laugh. And don't worry about it, we're not doing this for money, we're going to do like a great movie.
I think we realized that the best guarantee we had of actually finishing this movie was to take on this impossible deadline and commit to getting it to the Commonwealth Film Festival. I think if they were ready to take it sight unseen and actually program it as their opening night attraction based on the recommendation of a friend, the least we could do is get it there on time. We literally picked up the print from the lab on the way to the airport. Nobody had ever seen this movie until it was screened for the first time in Cardiff, Wales. And we literally got there as the audience was already sitting. It was a huge theater, like thousands of people.
David Secter made a film, and I saw it. It was called Winter Kept Us Warm. And I remember being absolutely astonished to see a movie that had my friends in it as actors, and that it had locations that were places that I walked every day at the University of Toronto. That was an incredible, shattering revelation for me. That it meant that you could have access to filmmaking.
We actually used to joke, when we were making the movie, during all those downtimes, we'd joke, next year at Cannes, we look back and laugh kind of thing. Cannes was at the time, and I guess still is probably considered the ultimate film festival. And, so the idea, sure, of having a student movie shown at Cannes seemed like like a pie in the sky joke at the time, but when I found out that the film was going, I guess I came as close to levitating as one can. So I was so eager to get going on my next movie. And somehow or other, met Martin Lager.
I thought about the possibility of a love story between a young Canadian fellow who probably worked at the theater and one of the girls from the visiting Chinese-speaking opera. And thinking about it at that time, given the world situation, the political and historical background of what was going on, it seemed to be an ideal kind of Romeo and Juliet love story.
But while we were making this movie, the Chinese government was introducing the most oppressive period in the history of China.
I think David was unique. I think David was about the only one that ventured to do his own thing.
Sundays in Toronto were the dullest place. You couldn't be in a more unappreciative atmosphere. It was just a terribly boring city. Then they built City Hall, and a couple other things happened, and then David made this film.
The new City Hall was going to be a real statement of Toronto's position as an international city. And I was thrilled when they gave it to us to use as a set for The Offering. I believe we were the first people to shoot in there. Not just shoot in there, but we actually set a scene in there, and they let us shoot in the city council chambers while it was in session. The mayor of the time, Phil Givens, not only played himself in the movie, but came out to the airport to do his scene there. Came out to the opening night at the Royal Alex for his scene there, brought along his wife to be an extra. Got a lot of cooperation from a lot of people that today would come with a heavy-duty price tag. You made the Royal Alex available to us, both on the exterior and the interior, And you let us put up posters for the Peking Dance Company, so we could shoot our scenes even while you had your opening night. We had to stage a protest scene. It was part of the story. So you let us come there with our protesters and their signs. It's really interesting when you think how little was happening then and how much is happening now in terms of film.
Tells a lot for the country we live in.
Yeah, exactly. First of all, Michael, do you remember how we first met? How did you
I think I wrote to you because I think I'd seen Winter Kept Us Warm, and then I knew you were doing this film. I think I wrote to you and you sent me a script, and I gave you, some notes and stuff like that. And I wanted to be involved with film, so that's how I.
And it's really good. It's interesting. I read my diary, and you took off months to be an unpaid production assistant.
That's right. It was a summer, so it was easier.
and worked on the script. You get credit for additional dialogue, as well as being a production assistant. I don't think you get credit for your performance.
I sort of realized quite early on, being involved with your film, that I didn't think I had the right character or personality to be able to kind of choreograph all that.
I don't want to do this for a living.
Well, I'd like to do this for a living, but I don't think I had the personality to do it for a living. I mean, I think being a director in Canada at that time essentially was choreographing and hustling and persuading people. And way down the line was actually directing and having time to write and direct, which is what I learned working with you. It was so difficult for you to get everything going.
Agency signed me on as a director shortly after The Offering. Some agent there had seen Winter and The Offering, and they signed me as a director. And so the summer of '67, following the summer after we made The Offering, Ratch, who also had some interest from Hollywood, and I drove to Hollywood, spent the summer there.
At one time, we were both offered contracts with Universal Pictures to go ahead and get in the studio system.
He had expected and hoped to be a great filmmaker in the classic tradition of auteur filmmaking. That is to say, a filmmaker who gets to control every aspect of what they do. And David is, of course, a control freak who likes to be in charge of everything.
He was quite torn by whether to take a contract and hold his chain his hands together creatively, or to stay open and to his own inspiration and create his own shows and try and go at it as an independent.
That was the point in time when you started to crystallize some of those decisions, not so much about wanting to make film, but the decision being to make film in a certain way and to opt out of the conventional mainstream of filmmaking and do it in what led to the New York experiment.
I remember coming down here in '93 and on my way to Mexico and Central America and spending some time with you and Patrick.
I basically recall marathon conversations in incredible honesty. I mean, in truth, you became someone who I shared more with than anyone other than Patrick. So very quickly, I mean, you and I established an intimacy that I don't have with anyone else other than Patrick. And I don't remember whether you'd seen any of my movies at this point or whatever.
I remember getting together, a.k.a. Feelin Up, at Addie's Video in Tuxedo, accidentally, and for real.
So you saw Feelin Up and saw
Feelin'
that picture.
Up, it looked like a TNA movie,
perfect to nothing to do with the movie.
Perfect to take over to our friends for the movie night. And when your name popped up in the head credits as writer, producer, director...
So it must have blown your mind. And that's,
pretty much.
That's pretty coincidental. I mean, it's not every day you pick up a movie at random at Addie's and find out that your uncle made it.
It was also a 70s sex comedy that was quite eye-opening insofar as the content is concerned. And that was my first... real foray into your body of work.
Also ends up with my utopian vision of the future. I mean, did that have any impression on you?
Tell us a bit about that utopian vision for the future.
Essentially, I had decided that really what I wanted to do was find some alternative way to make movies. And I was also looking for an alternative solution to living. I was actively involved with men and women during this period, and I think I was looking for a solution that would let me continue to live and with more than one intimate relationship, and to find a way to combine that with a working situation. Almost everybody I knew was involved in some form of the creative arts. We were all looking for alternative solution. So essentially I wrote a movie about a fictional process that would end up getting me where I wanted to be, which essentially was a group marriage, a media marriage. And that's what the whole Total Impact thing, turned out to be. From the get-go, the idea was not simply to make this as a fictional film, but to try to create this in reality. And in fact, we started shooting a documentary about the vision from the get-go. The plan basically was to make 2 movies.
All of the actors, as well as the entire crew, are participating on the exact same basis. Impact is a co-op venture. The feature comedy will be shooting through September and October. The feature requires nudity in the major roles.
I'm going to hang around with a lot of perverts because you get some crazy idea in your head, throw your whole life away, give up your job, and now you want to go into sexual fantasies.
The concept basically of creating a fantasy in reality through the movies was something that I believed was possible and convinced a number of other people was possible. Joel, Avery was Total Impact #1.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
When Avery came around, it was just him and me.
There was a notice you had put in Filmmaker's newsletter. I looked at this ad and I said, "Gee, this is terrific." And I went to the library and checked you out to find out whether you were who you said you were.
Was I?
I'm not sure. To this day, I'm not sure. You might be. I think you are. And I called him up. And there was this insane person on the other end of the phone.
Has anybody made a movie for $25,000?
Excuse me, has anyone, forget making a movie, we're not making a movie, we're making history.
The only way to get power is to seize power!
Until someone else comes along and grabs it from you. There'll always be the haves and the have-nots.
Joey, a guy basically I met because he tried to pick up my sister-in-law Roland when he saw us, and that happened to be the first day of casting on this movie, and he was an actor at the time, and as we discovered, he'd also had some significant production experience on independent pictures. That was even more important. Joey and I became partners in this project, and it consumed us full time for at least 10 years.
When I joined up with David, he was already here living in this apartment, which is what came to be known as the main set. And at that time, there was a superintendent who was doing a very poor job, and so we became, as a company, the supers of the building.
Look, they were great people to have taking care of it because, my family, we were theater and music people, And a lot of buildings are not friendly to people like us.
So one by one, as apartments became available, we took them over.
They needed someone to give some physical form to these strange ideas. And I was very convenient and facile with a pencil and could draw pictures and ideas of what those were.
One of the real pluses is people would come here for auditions, and from the outside of the building it looked pretty shoddy. But once they got inside, they could see that we had professional standards.
We had basically the run of all the public space, including the roof where we shot, the courtyards where we shot, the hallways where we shot, and we took over all the basement space and we made it kind of livable, and we put a screening room in and we put editing rooms in, and we had a wood shop, and we had, it was kind of like a self-contained studio, a Hollywood studio, only it was on the Lower East Side, and it was run by these two offbeat crazies and with no money.
Hollywood in the 70s, as I think very well documented by Peter Biskin in that book, Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, was sort of wide open to almost anybody. But there wasn't that much New York American independent film at that point.
If he really wanted to be a successful filmmaker, in the traditional sense, he would have gone to Los Angeles. And he didn't go. And he didn't go because he knew what was there and he wanted something else.
My objective is to create a literal and total professional film collective, but still and always in which everybody participated in whatever needed to be done.
Total Impact is a group of actors and film production people who have formed a commune in a tenement at 2nd Avenue and 14th Street. The building is home to about 10 of the group and also their movie studio.
Ultimately, more than saying, read my diary, see my films, get to know me as fully as you can, in the final analysis, any kind of artistic venture is a question of trust.
This was, I think, a dream of a lot of us who desperately wanted to be in the film business and work on a consistent basis, and to be able to do that in New York.
It was a time in the world when there were no consequences for anything you did. So you could take drugs because we didn't have addiction. You could drink because we didn't really have alcoholism. You could fuck anyone you wanted because there was no AIDS, there was no herpes, there was no hepatitis. I mean, there was, but we didn't know about it.
I first met up with Total Impact in 1974, which is the first year that I came to this country from England.
For me at that time, being into movies and shooting movies and being involved and working with the cameras and the Arriflexes and going up and ordering the equipment and carrying it and that whole stuff was great.
It was my first grounding in how movies are actually physically made and what the concerns are and what you have to do to get a movie done.
One of the things that this movie's all about is the degree to which a group of us tried to live out the fantasy.
Wait till you see what I'm doing to our place.
What are you doing to our place?
Well, I'm tearing down that wall.
You're tearing down a wall?
See, last week I was floating around in a rowboat on Central Park when I ran into this exquisite Indian woman. She was also in a boat with her son. She changed my whole concept of environment.
The vision that these people had to take like an inner city tenement and turn it into something positive, I definitely resonated with that.
I'm gone for 2 weeks. You quit your job, sell our car, break up my home, and go humping from rowboat to rowboat, and I'm supposed to be better off for the experience?
Kathleen wanted to become an actress, was an actress, but hadn't really been in anything significant. She basically moved into the building and got, again, very wrapped up in whatever we were doing, not only getting together, but she pitched into other projects as well. Joey and Kathleen and I, especially, I think, bonded and became a close threesome. They were also, I think, looking for solutions in their life that it seemed for a while Total Impact might address.
Even though I never
officially wanted to do the commune thing, it was sort of like, well, Total Impact would pay my rent. It was my apartment, but if I shared it, they'd pay the rent.
David put Kathleen and me together in an apartment, and Kathleen and I, we were emulating the on-screen romance. We lived together, during the making of that movie. I felt that was part of David's strategy, really, to thrust people together, to almost have the personal relationships be in such a no-exit situation that it would spill over into our on-screen relationships. And I think it did.
The 70s were a period where still a lot of people thought of they could pursue alternatives. There were communal farms and various other explorations of lifestyle happening around America, especially, and in Europe as well.
The role itself scared me, the nudity scared me, the frankness of it, the sexuality frightened me. Now, I would love to do all of that stuff all over again, because I feel so much more comfortable about myself and the layers that David was trying to expose in us.
The more I think about it, the more I realize that what we're doing is the right thing to do. I mean, living and working together and bringing up children together. Maybe we'd all feel more committed if we formalized us.
Are you proposing?
Why not? Why don't we all get married?
It was as if the roles were defining us as human beings. And because we all lived in this group environment, we really went with each other's flow, with our ups and downs, and we became as much the movie as the movie became us.
There have been many group marriages and communes that, throughout history, and many have worked for decades.
I think we have some pretty advanced people here, frankly.
If we support the fantasy and release the movies, then people will say, well, not only did the fantasy happen, but the reality happened too, and maybe it's a viable alternative.
I think if we have to pick a single example of somebody whose life reflected my themes, it's yours. Basically, the concept of the group marriage was to allow people to try all sorts of different skills. You were raising a daughter, and part of the whole communal concept was that you wouldn't have to take the full responsibility for raising a child. You had personal relations with different men at different times in the family, and again, part of my fantasy was to allow for that kind of thing to happen, but with continuity.
He has like a different picture of the whole thing. Like when he says to me, that I lived the experience. I didn't. It was a struggle.
We lived and worked together. We had to operate as a family, and a dysfunctional family at times.
I never thought of it as a commune. I always thought of it more as a co-op. Here we had a central purpose, and it was to make the movie.
Basically, what I think is we did stuff that should have taken 3 weeks to do, and it took us 4 years. And we didn't really even finish anything because we were just high all the time.
There was always this promise of, we're gonna, we're so free and we're all so liberated and we're all gonna do these things. But we ran into the same things, the same obstacles that society in general did with those precepts. It's like, it's not that easy. Giving your body and all of that is just, at the end of the day, isn't just so without cost.
Although the group marriage concept, the group living concept, seemed like a good idea, very few of us, I think, are raised to genuinely want to embrace the people around us as family. I mean, a lot of us are very private people. Some are more suited than others. The people who lasted, the longest were people who, by and large, were open to sharing and caring.
I said to myself one day when I was 15,
why am I not where I would like to be? And so I said, aha, well, the way to do it is to make a movie about exactly what I would like to, exactly where I'd like to be, say, a few years from now. That way I will make contact at least with other people who have similar intentions.
So you didn't really care about making the movie?
I thought the movie was going to be like the calling card.
For the group?
Yeah. I thought, you know, we were going to like spend the rest of our lives together.
So you were casting.
Crazy me.
So you were casting people that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with.
Wow.
You stopped at some point, you took a break, a hiatus from getting together to make this sort of
blow dry.
Yeah, this porno film, fairly softcore, but you know, with a little bit of an edge. Softcore porno film called Blow Dry.
You saw that?
Which I've seen because hey, Sam Kitt's in it. You think I'm not going to see every Sam Kitt performance?
You know, look, it is a long, long time ago. I mean, I enjoyed writing this script. It was a lot of fun. It was, as you know, a parody of Shampoo, which was a movie that I liked very much, and it was just, it was really just a goof.
It was a sort of a desperate get-rich-quick scheme to make enough money to keep the company Total Impact afloat and finance the end of the movie.
We all invested in it, not so much from the point of view that we thought, you know, this was the right thing to get involved in as much as it was for David.
They didn't hire a professional porno guy to do it, so he had a really hard time with the sex part.
It was a porno, but it wasn't, you know, the sweating and the yelling and the hassling and the take 1 and take 99 and so on was all the same.
It was pretty wild. I mean, that's why I really clung to the cameraman, because, you know, you could be grabbed and pulled into a scene.
What ended up happening with respect to this is that a group of us flew down to New York. We flew down first class on Air Canada. We almost stayed at the Hilton. We were there for the premiere of this porno film, and David was a star.
Lloyd and I go back a long way, almost to the beginnings of Trova. They released Getting Together under the title Feelin Up. You know, we've been trying to track down, Getting Together, the original version. No one so far seems to have been able to come up either with the print or with the negative, or even with the sections that you took out.
There was the fucking in the church or something?
There was, I mean, there's not fucking in the church, but there's like a flagellation in a church scene.
We screened it as Getting Together, and we couldn't get anybody nibbling on it. So then we changed it, and we did a poster with these young kids on it with a popcorn, sold it as if it was a squeeze play or waitress. Looking back on it, I regret the name change. I regret that we removed stuff. I think we might have been better off just biting a bullet and see what happens.
But finally, no, the movies were not successful enough to support, the endeavor. We had an opportunity of taking over a theater, which was just down the street, and so essentially this group of people that we put together at Total Impact at 14th Street and 2nd Avenue became the core group that launched Entermedia. We're standing kitty corner from what used to be the Entermedia Theater, which is now the Village City Cinemas East, and they've made some changes. The basic architecture remains the same. When we came in here, we very quickly got excited about the idea of restoring this classic theater and producing shows. We still consider ourselves primarily filmmakers and media people, hence the name Entermedia. The concept was both entertainment media and an entree to the media, things that we'd been very much all about it at Total Impact. On April the 11th in 1980, I met Patrick Montana, who was a French citizen visiting New York City. Patrick was as gorgeous a guy as I had ever laid eyes on when I met him. Certainly the best looking guy that ever agreed to come home with me. Considering the age difference, 14 years, the fact that the language problem really prevented us from having a serious, meaningful conversation for several months. Maybe that was a blessing in disguise, I don't know. I mean, we were really taking a chance. There were a lot of factors that easily could have prevented the marriage from working. I think Patrick deserves most of the credit.
When I came in here, I think it was very dark. It was like way past 2 o'clock when we came back from that gay bar. And so it's not until the next day in the morning when I woke up and I thought I was like in a different planet. It was like orange color, yellow. It was like a traffic circle around here. I was in New York because I just came in and I wanted to try. I just came from France. Just wanted to try to see if I can get a job here and stay.
Patrick actually told me the first night that he loved me. And I stepped in and said, no, you can't love me. You don't know me well enough yet.
You like me. You corrected my English right there.
I think that we understood very early on that this was a relationship that could work.
When did you move in?
I moved in maybe a week later. My feelings about coming to California? It was very exciting. The first 2 weeks we were here, David wanted to talk to me about something. So fine, and like, well, something new again, maybe his project coming through and all that, and knowing him, and he tells me that he is HIV.
During this intimacy that developed, when we kind of reconnected in '93, you became, one of the first people to learn that I was HIV positive. I haven't felt any necessity to really share it with people because in some ways it's been something of a non-issue as far as I think anyone other than my immediate, my intimate partners are concerned. I'm in good health. I have no expectations of that changing anytime in the foreseeable future. So it really hasn't affected, me, and therefore I didn't think really anyone else, even the immediate family, needed to know. But anyway, so yes, indeed, this is part, I guess, of your decision to come and work.
By the time you invited me to live and work with you in '96, I did think your days were numbered. At that time, people did think being HIV positive was a death sentence. Clearly, we know now, 15 years later, that it's not. God bless.
I'm not HIV, I'm negative, so I'm okay. So in living with that person, with David, learning with him together about his disease, you become more and more aware that it's not something really, it's a part of lifestyle. It's like having a cancer, having an appendix. Yes, it is a little bit more delicate. So, but you learn to live with it.
So let's get up to Cyberdome. How do I cajole you into that?
Cyberdome for me was an opportunity both professionally and personally. Professionally, what better opportunity is there than moving to LA to make a movie in Hollywood? It was really at 23. You convinced me that I had the possibility of being the wonder boy in Hollywood. And on a personal front, I really did value the opportunity to help you bring this to life.
I think Joel came down there originally to work on the movie and do it with his uncle, but I think Joel had something else in mind that I don't think he really shared with his uncle at the time, but he told me about it, that he wanted to do kind of a documentary on the movie. It was the making of the movie.
This is a very exciting time to be together. We're embarking on an adventurous experience. I'd like to think that this is going to be the most exciting year of our lives. Maybe a life-changing experience. Let's take it for all it's worth.
When I came to LA, I really didn't have any idea what was in store for me, and you did. I had a million questions. I was constantly asking you, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? You made it clear that what was on the page was what we had to put on the stage, and I basically said that was my job.
I signed you basically with all of the major responsibilities. Find the location, find the crew, find
this, find that.
Find whatever we
make
need.
It happen.
Put it
that
together.
That was your motto at the time. Make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly,
you made a lot happen.
This is about a kid who makes it happen in the movie, and I very much felt like Brandon Mann in real life.
Cyberdome calls for state-of-the-art, portable, high-quality audio-video that could be sent either live by satellite or live by internet around the world.
It was ahead of, I think, the dot-com explosion. And to me, it anticipated what could be.
My name's Tiffany, and have you heard about Cyberdome?
Cable company was prepared to hook us up. We got state-of-the-art equipment ready to install in a perfect location. Cyberdome will be up and running in 1 month.
The university is launching a TV studio on the World Wide Web.
Free exchange of ideas and information.
And how are you going to find 4 students willing to spend 2 months in a digital fishbowl?
Surfing the World Wide Web.
I had no experience filmmaking and had never read a screenplay before Cyberdome.
They're saying, this is the best shot we've ever had. If these guys can deliver what they say they can deliver, this is the chance we have been waiting for all our lives. Let's do it. We've got to make it. These are the right guys in the right place at the right time. We're prepared to take everything they've ever learned and make a hell of a movie.
By the time we got to camera, it was clear to me that I was in over my head.
If we just accept the fact that these guys aren't really what Beth has had them out to be, they've demonstrated nothing to us that convinces us that they're creatively capable of greatness.
I was making decisions based on my experience up until that point and the people I surrounded myself that weren't good ones.
I didn't have to do anything. You're right. I didn't have to credit Frank with a co-producer title.
I had never gone through the process, not even on a very small scale before, let alone with a $250,000 budget in Los Angeles.
I mean, this thing was going to be a battle. It was going to, you're going to stretch yourself further than ever before, even that you had imagined. But I'll be honest, I didn't realize quite what a toll it was taking on your psyche, on everything.
I basically left LA because I felt that you were the one that had to deliver. It was your script, it was your money, it was your vision.
At that point, Joel, I think, felt very conflicted with what his role was in the movie.
And I don't think he wanted to see his Uncle David screw it up. I don't think in his heart he wanted to see it, and everybody was telling him that's what was going to happen. But that's not what happened. David, like any other time in his life, made the movie.
Okay, ready and action. Cyberdorm, in many ways, is a continuation of some of the themes from Getting Together. I was looking for a situation in which people from very different backgrounds who normally would not end up living together might get together. And I realized that a college campus was a great place for that, especially if there were an experiment where somebody was trying specifically to put people together from different backgrounds.
It was very good, very positive to see David very happy about what he loves to do the best, being director and be around people, because he's a show businessman.
I think that the digital video revolution is a very exciting development in communications. I've got a Canon XL1 myself, which I've been using now for 3-4 years. Love it. As you know, I've shot documentaries now far afield, a couple of years at the Burning Man Arts Festival. To me, part of the excitement of digital video is that I can go out and do it on my own. So if I'm compelled enough to go and make a movie, nothing has to stop me. If your definition of success is like hit or miss, and that's basically the way Variety calls it, if a film recoups its investment, it's a hit. If it's not, it's a miss. And so, if that's your definition of success, then I haven't been very successful.
So what are you up to?
I've stayed active. I made a low-budget feature 5 years ago called Cyberdorm about a group of California college students who launch a webcast and become global media stars for 15 seconds. But I've been mostly doing documentaries.
I lived at 235 2nd Avenue right after I graduated law school. And New Line was started in 1967 on that same 5th floor walk up at 235 2nd Avenue. And this is the original brochure for 235 2nd Avenue, right there.
That certainly calls for an ECU. This is great. You wouldn't by any chance have a spare copy of that?
Sorry, I
No,
don't.
long gone, I assume, sure.
I was lucky to have this one.
It's a collector's item. That's terrific.
For very discreet collectors. To some extent, I'm surprised about people who didn't make it, and it's a little hard to be able to say what that ineluctable essence is that gets people to break the wall. It's a little bit like running a marathon. You keep running up against walls, and you have to keep going. At the end of the day, I think that most of the guys who didn't make it just didn't bite the bullet as hard as they needed to play the game and buy into the system.
I certainly haven't made it as far as the industry is concerned, and unless things change in the next few years, I assume I'll go down at the most as a little asterisk and a footnote in history, and so be it. It's comforting to know that I've left a few things behind that look like they're going to have some kind of life beyond me, and that's nice. But I'm a success in my own eyes, in that I think I've used my time pretty well, and I've had the chutzpah to go out and do things and try things that a lot of people talk about but never actually pull off. And I think I've seen almost all of my projects through to completion. If not successfully marketed, at least I've taken them as far as I could, and I haven't abandoned any of my babies. I'm thrilled that you're attracting some attention to them. I'd be absolutely delighted if you find a new audience because of you created this bio, maybe indeed, the sum is greater than the parts. Maybe if people see them as a body of work, as part of a continuum, they'll make more sense, have more interest than they seem to have individually. I continue to daydream with the best of them. My fantasies are as far-fetched as they've always been. I'm going to keep hustling until I'm all hustled out. You've given me an incredible gift. I hope it goes even beyond your wildest expectations.